Week 1 of the NFL season is all wrapped up now after the Monday night game between the Seahawks and the Broncos. Taking a look at this week's action, we've got the Bills and Rams on Thursday night. The Bills just absolutely dominated. Josh Allen looks like just an absolute monster at quarterback, being able to both run the ball and throw the ball. As you can see, he had 297 passing yards, 56 rushing yards, 4 total touchdowns, and he did turn the ball over a couple times and was still able to lead the Bills to 31 points. Defensively, the Bills look good. The Rams just look really bad. Offensively, I think Stafford played very bad, was very underwhelming. We'll see going forward. I think the Rams pick it up, but I think the Bills are able to maintain that, and that's one of the reasons why they're the favorite to win the Super Bowl this year. Then moving on to the 1 o'clock games, we'll start with the Eagles at the Lions. Not a ton of defense played in this game. Both teams did turn the ball over, but the defenses struggled to stop the run. Jalen Hurts had 243 passing yards, but he also had almost 100 yards rushing with a rushing touchdown. I think there were 3 or 4 rushing touchdowns scored by each team. DeAndre Swift had 144 rushing yards and a touchdown. I know Jamal Williams had at least 2 more rushing touchdowns. I'm not sure on his yardage, but I think both teams were close to 200 yards rushing, if not more. And then A.J. Brown, Eagles traded for him for a reason. 10 receptions for 155. The Lions DBs made it difficult on themselves, leaving A.J. Brown open. And then there were a couple of contested catches he was able to make, which made the Lions DB's life very difficult. But at the end of the day, the Lions did cover, so it'll be interesting to see how both teams do going forward. The Saints at the Falcons. This was one of the games I picked. I picked this game correctly. I had the Falcons plus 5.5. I said that the Falcons would come out and Mariota would add a little bit of a different element to their offense with the ability to run from quarterback that they didn't have with Matt Ryan, which I believe was the case. And I also said the Saints would come out and kind of struggle with Jameis at quarterback and new head coach. The Falcons were winning this game for the majority of the game. As you can see, it went into the fourth quarter at 23-10. The Saints were able to outscore the Falcons 17-3 in the fourth quarter and finish the game up with a 27-26 win. But it's just another fourth quarter lead blown by the Falcons. The 49ers and the Bears. This was a bit of a crazy game. I don't know if you guys saw. The Chicago weather was pretty crazy. It was just an absolute torrential downpour for the entire game. So both teams couldn't really throw the ball. As you can see, Trey Lance was 13 of 28 with 164, and he was the leading passer in the game. This kind of shows you how the offense was kind of ran. He was also the leading rusher at 13 carries for 54 yards. There just wasn't much offense at all in this game. I think the weather limited both teams. You can see it was 7-0 at halftime. There were only 29 total points scored in the game. So it's a very low scoring game and not what I expected, but the Bears were able to come away with a gritty, wet game at home. The Steelers and Bengals finished up in overtime after a pretty disastrous overtime period for both teams. I believe both teams missed at least one field goal. Joe Burrow was the leading passer at 338 yards and 2 touchdowns, although he did have 4 interceptions, which led to the Bengals' loss. Joe Mixon was the leading ball carrier at 27 carries for 82 yards, and Jamar Chase was the leading receiver with 10 receptions for 129 and a touchdown. I also picked this game. This wasn't one of my official picks, but I did have the Steelers kind of grinding it out and playing tough, and I didn't think they'd win, but I thought it'd be a close loss. But I took them plus the points, and they ended up winning, so it worked out. The Patriots at the Dolphins. So another one of the picks that I had that was right. The Dolphins ended up at 20 points to the Patriots 7. They were at home. They've kind of had the Patriots number at home in years past. Tua threw for 270 and 1 touchdown. Tyreek had 8 catches for 94 yards, and the leading rusher was Damian Harris with 9 carries for 48 yards. Again, Patriots aren't going to be some offensive juggernaut this season. I'm not sure how Mac Jones plays. I didn't watch this game. Kind of followed it loosely due to some of the fantasy players I have on my team, but the Dolphins look pretty decent. Got what they could against a tough Patriots defense, and we were able to grind out a 20-7 win. The Ravens beat the Jets as expected. Joe Flacco threw the ball almost 60 times at 59 for 307 and 1 touchdown. Michael Carter had 10 carries for 60 yards, and Corey Davis was 6 catches for 77 yards. I believe the Ravens defense had a handful of turnovers and were able to score on maybe one or two of them, which led to the offense not having to do much. But the Ravens beating the Jets is another game that I picked right, and it was kind of expected by most people. Then we have the Jags at the Commanders. Carson Wentz had a strong performance with Washington with 313 yards and 4 touchdowns. The leading rusher and receiver were from Jacksonville, with James Robinson having 11 carries for 66 yards and a touchdown, and Christian Kirk at 6 catches for 117 yards. The Commanders were up in the fourth quarter. They gave up a quick 10 points and went down 22 to, I believe, 14. The Commanders scored late, went for two, missed it, were able to get the ball back, believe on a turnover, maybe not. I know they got to stop, so they got the ball back late and were able to score and get the 2 point conversion to put them at 28 to 22. So I had them minus 2.5, and they covered, so I was pretty happy. The Browns beat the Panthers 26-24. They went on the road and they beat Baker. Baker had 235 passing yards and 1 touchdown. Not the greatest game from him. Nick Chubb with 22 carries and 141 carried on from his dominant performance last season. And Robbie Anderson had 5 catches for 102 yards and a touchdown. This game was a pick 'em. I kind of said it in my week one preview video that I wasn't sure who was going to win. I thought the Browns had more talent. So I ended up going with the Browns, and the Browns ended up winning. And since it was an even line, it didn't matter if they won by 1 point or if they won by 50 points. As long as they won, the bet was successful. This game was very disappointing. The Colts did not play well at all against the Texans. They tied. Conveniently, there's already a tie in week one of this season, with the new overtime rules as well, where both teams get a possession each. But it is what it is. I had the Colts minus 7, so it lost. Matt Ryan had 352 passing yards and a touchdown. Jonathan Taylor had 31 carries, 161 yards, and a touchdown. And Pittman had 9 catches for 121 yards and a touchdown. You'd think with those numbers, the Colts would have dominated this game, but unfortunately they did not, and they ended up tying the Texans. Then moving into the afternoon slate, we've got the Giants at the Texans, or Giants at the Titans, I'm sorry. The Giants were able to sneak out of Tennessee with a 1 point win. The Titans were up for pretty much the entire game. They were up 20-3 at one point in the third quarter, and as you can see, the Giants stormed back with 18 unanswered. Tannehill had 266 for 2 touchdowns. Barkley with 164 yards and a touchdown and 18 carries, and Sterling Shepard with 2 catches for 71 yards and a touchdown. The Titans, I had them minus 6.5 or 5.5, one of the two. That didn't matter because they lost, but they were up 2 scores for most of the game, and they gave it away late. The Giants scored with 2 minutes or so left, and were able to get the 2 point conversion. They were down 20-19. They went for two on the road and came away with a win. So in terms of my picks, not great, but it was a pretty decent game there down the stretch. The Packers and Vikings. The Vikings won 23-7 at home. Kirk Cousins had 277 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. Dalvin Cook had 20 carries for 90 yards, and Justin Jefferson with an absolute monster game of 9 catches for 184 yards and 2 touchdowns. The new head coach for the Vikings, O'Connell, definitely helped them offensively, open up their playbook, put in a couple new wrinkles for them, which helped them get by Green Bay. In my preview video, I mentioned that I wasn't going to pick against Aaron Rodgers, and I took the Vikings to lose, actually. The Packers were 1.5 point favorites, so I took the Packers minus 1.5. So I don't think Aaron Rodgers played all that bad. He's just got a lot of rookie receivers, a lot of guys he's not familiar with. I mean, their first play was a potential 70-yard touchdown. Rodgers put it right on the money, and the receiver dropped it. So not a whole lot he can do there. His teammates got to help him out here going forward this season. Then we've got the Chiefs at the Cardinals. The Chiefs are the Chiefs. I kind of called this. I thought the Cardinals would struggle early on. I mean, they're missing D-Hop, and there's some wavering at quarterback with Kyler Murray. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do the rest of the season. But Mahomes had 360 for 5 touchdowns. Isaiah Pacheco had 12 carries for 62 yards and a touchdown, and Travis Kelce had 8 receptions for 121 yards and a touchdown. I had the Chiefs spread in this one, so it ended up working out. Then the last 4 o'clock game was the Raiders at the Chargers. The Chargers won 24-19. Derek Carr was the leading passer with 294 yards and 2 touchdowns. Josh Jacobs had 10 touches for 57 yards, and Devontae Adams had 10 catches for 141 yards and a touchdown. The Raiders definitely had the leading stat holders, but I think the Chargers spread the ball out more. Herbert played well. They they were up the majority of the game, maybe took their foot off the gas a little bit, let the Raiders come back. But I mentioned in my preview game that the difference in this game would be at quarterback, and I think Herbert was able to lead his team better than Derek Carr was. Then jumping into the 8 o'clock game, I made a video on this, so I won't cover it a ton. I took the Cowboys. Unfortunately, Dak got hurt, and the Cowboys just did not play very well. Defensively, they played all right, but offensively, they struggled a lot. Brady was the leading passer with 212 yards and 1 touchdown. Fournette had 21 carries for 127 yards, and Mike Evans had 5 catches for 71 yards and a touchdown. Then jumping into the Monday night game, I also made a video for this. Unfortunately, I picked this one wrong as well. I had the Broncos -6.5. Although I don't blame myself much for this one. They had all the opportunities in the world. I mean, they had 2 fumbles on the 1 yard line in the second half. If they score on both of those, there's 14 more points right there. They win by 13 instead of losing by 1. I mean, I had a -6.5. They won by 13. My bet wins, but it's all right. Game 1, see how teams come out and play. They defensively they struggled a lot in the first half with penalties. In the second half, they came out and dominated. Geno Smith played absolutely out of his mind in the first half, but kind of just took his foot off the gas. I don't know if that's even the right term in the second half, but the Seahawks offense kind of sputtered there in the second half. Broncos consistently moved the ball, as you can kind of tell by the passing stats, but they struggled to get anything going when it came to the red zone. Leaders for this game were Russell Wilson at 340 yards and a touchdown. Rashad Penny was a rushing leader with 12 carries for 60 yards, although Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon, I think, combined for over 100 rushing yards. So I think Denver offense was able to move the ball, as I said, but they struggled when it came down to getting in the end zone. And then Jerry Jeudy had 4 catches for 102 yards and a touchdown. So overall, I know I gave 5 picks that I was super confident in. Not super confident, but more confident than others in my preview video. Those unfortunately went 2 for 3, and then I got the Thursday night game, Monday night game, and Sunday night game wrong. But overall, if you were to take all my picks over the weekend from all my videos, including the ones that I didn't give out as like locked in picks, but I gave you a lean on what I thought was going to happen, we went 8-8. So overall, not the greatest day, not the worst day though. Looking to get better as we move on to week 2, but you can expect similar videos to this past week. I'll make a Thursday night game. I'll make a week 2 preview, kind of going over all the Sunday slate, and then I'll make a video highlighting the Sunday night game and Monday night game. But until then, I'll see you guys later.